This week on the TT Show, more CES 2024 coverage. We review the GeForce RTX 4070 Super, look at a game-changing headset and monitor, transparent displays, news out of SpaceX and Elon Musk, AI, robotics, and much, much more. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the TT Show. My name is Jack Connor. I'm a hardware editor over at Tweaktown, and today I'm joined by my co-host,
Kosta, gaming hardware editor at Tweaktown.
How you going, my friend?
Doing pretty well, but you know, it's GPU season, so if you've got your eyes on Tweaktown, you'll notice that the first batch of RTX Super GPUs are up there, and we'll talk about them in the show today. But yeah, so that means that I've been, doing work around the house, but also just benchmarking whenever I have a spare minute, and writing and benchmarking and watching YouTube clips and doing 5 things at once, playing Diablo. It's all just,
you're all over the place.
All just a blur.
Yeah, no, it is about the same here. I'm preparing to get all of or as many as I can, OLED monitors that are announced at CES. So I'm firing emails off back and forth, trying to write news in between, trying to finish up on the monitors. I've only got one left from Adblock that I need to review, and a VR headset. But after that, I've got the Crystal Pimax's Crystal 8K.
Oh,
it's the world's first 8K VR headset.
How is it?
It is impressive and also needs work. Needs work.
Can you run games at 8K on me? You got the 4090, so
yeah, but we'll talk about that at another time. We'll talk about. I need to do some proper testing on that, but we would definitely talk about that on the podcast once that review is live, so we can link it down below. But this week we're going to start off with
some leftover CES news, I think.
Yeah, and one of the stories that might have flown under most people's radar was an announcement from a company called 3M. Now, I came across this story because they must have found my previous gaming headset and audio product reviews. I used to review DACs and all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, they sent me a press release, and I saw in the press release, it was the world's first self-charging headset, and I'm like,
I
what?
saw this headline too, and I was like, what? How are you doing this? So I looked into it. According to the company, at least, I haven't seen any independent reviews of this product yet. I don't even think it's out yet. Oh yeah, March 2024. So this is the world's first self-charging protective communications headset, is the official world first claim. So 3M has announced that. Yeah, I know. I think it's so they can get the world's first in there. Yeah.
Because it's not a gaming headset, it's a communication headset. So it's different, if you're not. Yeah, I mean, you're right in the line there. So the company has issued a press release, reveals that 3M is going to release the world's first self-charging protective communications headset, which uses solar cell technology to convert not only outdoor light, but indoor ambient light into a continuous charge. This patented solar cell technology is what 3M call Powerfoil, and it was birthed out of a partnership with Exiga, a Swedish company that specializes in solar cell technology. So this blew my mind. I'm like, you're telling me that, say this headset right here, if this was the...
put on your desk and it's charging.
From the Elgato key lights, it's just continuously getting charged.
Yeah.
So the company calls it a real game changer. It's designed for, I'll just list off some of its other features. Along with its natural light harvesting capabilities, it comes with Bluetooth, noise cancelling microphone, a push to listen feature,
a 3M connected equipment app for monitoring solar cell energy levels, health of the solar cell batteries, and over-the-air firmware updates. So I was like, who is this headset for? So communications headset. I'm imagining people. Oh, also powered by Qualcomm's aptX HD. I'm not even sure what that is. I'm not very familiar with.
Like a mobile audio.
It's got to be a chip.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, who is this for? And I'm imagining that headset being worn by someone that is, I don't know, maybe walking down a railroad, doing some regulator work, like checking lines.
It looks like a, like an industrial sort of design.
Yeah.
Like, like a factory worker, like somebody that drives a forklift or...
Yeah, that's managing like a warehouse or something like that, and they need to communicate with someone on the other side of the building, but they don't want to walk 3Ks or 3 miles for everyone in the US. So I had questions about this. I'm like, okay, so if it's getting a continuous charge from both indoor and outdoor light, which in 90% of cases... Oh wait, no, I suppose I'm thinking of this in a gaming sense. Maybe 90%, it's not 90% of the cases that they're gonna see light. Like what if you're working in the dark?
Yeah, but like I assume that like it'll be a much slower charge if it's like really ambient light, because there's always going to be light, so it'll always be charging, which is impressive. But the weird thing is that it's as a communication headset, and like where it says like 80 hours of battery life, does this mean that the voice, that the actual sound quality is just going to be tuned for voice? Like, so like if you have like a headset that's just for like chat, for like voice, the sound quality doesn't have to be great. And because it doesn't have to be great, you don't have to do, like a lot of low end bass, or, that sort of like the detail that you need for like gaming, movies and music and stuff like that. So if you don't have that, then you don't need as much power. So then you can have 80 hours, if you know what I mean. So like if you chucked this tech in, the headset you've got on now.
Yeah.
Like how long would that 80 hours be? Would that 80 hours now be like 2 hours?
Yeah, that's true.
Because of the, larger drivers, or, because of the bigger sound.
So I had some questions. So I didn't really expect, pardon me then, I was burping. I didn't really expect them to respond because it was I've never heard of 3M. So I just asked, since there is a continuous charge, does that mean users will never run out of battery? And they responded, correct. As long as the headsets stay indoor or outdoor, outdoor or indoor light. Sorry. I said, what's the capacity of the lithium ion battery? Because it doesn't state it in the initial press release from the first one. So it's 1,000 milliamp hours.
Which is pretty good.
80 hours. What's the price? $600 US. So,
so it is pretty high end then. So it's not going to be something that's just like a gimmick or like something.
Yeah, this is their new flagship compared to their last one. I think their last one was the Pelter WS Alert. I think it might have been XPY or something like that. Like, so this is just the next one up. But I just thought this was pretty cool. Like, you imagine this kind of technology being implemented to gaming headsets.
I was about to say, like, if you had this tech in like a gaming headset, or even just like headphones that you listen to music with when you're out and about, like you just walk, like, going for a walk or whatever, or you're just commuting or whatever the case is, you just put the headset on and it's charging and you're listening at the same time. As long as like the charge can kind of stay like close to, like play and charge. Like if it can get, if it hits those sort of levels, so like, where then you will never have to, it'll never be out of battery. Like they said yes, because because play and charge just means that battery life is irrelevant really, because it's always got charge.
It's it would even be good if they could take a gaming headset, like this is the Kosta Virtuoso. I can't remember what one it is, but it's one of the newer ones. If they could take that solar cell technology, the light harvesting capabilities, and be able to harvest light coming off of your monitor. So even if you could play in the dark, or even lights from inside, but
make it so it doesn't charge the entire headset up. Like, just make it so the drain and the charge are equal, so you never lose charge.
Exactly.
That would be really nice. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool piece of tech. Cool. Like, charging from light, like headsets are getting solar powered now.
It's definitely like a potential game changer.
Yeah.
And speaking of game changers, your other fun leftover story from MSI
I found this yesterday.
Continuing like the display. Oh man, oh my God, I don't even know how many displays were announced at CES, but let's just say it was a gazillion.
It was more than 30. It's looking like more than 30. Now, don't get me wrong. MSI is one of my favorite monitor brands.
Same.
I have it. They make incredible displays
that are affordable too.
That are affordable. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. They don't price them too highly. I recommend them almost across the board to any gamer that is just like wanting to like level up or get into, and without having to spend too much money.
Yep.
However, they have done something that has ruffled my feathers, Kosta, to say the least.
Okay.
So this flew under my radar because I was inundated with every other brand releasing monitors. But so they had on the CES showroom floor the MEG 321 URX QD OLED. Now, this monitor comes with a feature that is easily controversial. It's going to spread. It's setting a precedent, I think, at least in the gaming community, and it's called Skylight.
Yep.
Now,
SkySight.
on the SkySight. AI SkySight. So, equipped with the minimap auto scan technology, the monitor scans your game's minimap to show enemies, to instantly detect enemies and show its direction as a heads-up display, giving you the strategic edge for you to... Sorry, my monitor is stuffing up here. Giving you the strategic edge for you to giving you the strategic edge you need for total gaming awareness. Man, I need a bigger monitor in here. So, just a basic rundown of this tech. There is a neural net processor in the back of this display.
Insane already.
It's ridiculous that they're even putting this in there. It scans the frame of your game, detects the minimap, and then when, like, say in a game of League of Legends, a character pops up on the minimap display, it will put a red highlight in the direction of that character on the player's display.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with this tech is it is cheating. But this is what MSI, and this is what ruffled my feathers.
Okay.
MSI argues that it's not cheating because it's using data that is already readily available to the player. So essentially they're saying, if you're a good enough player, you would have seen that enemy pop up on the mini map anyway. Now, I would task MSI with this. Explain to me how that is any different from a prohibited plugin.
Yeah, like a hack.
Yeah, just any plugin that's illegal.
Like
by the TOS of the game.
I don't even think it's as far from like actual hacks. So back in the day, this is like we're going way back to the early Counter-Strike days, right? I used to play all the time, and I had a bunch of friends that played too. And once I went over to a friend's place and he was playing Counter-Strike, and I'm like, this is a bit weird. Like, what's all these like lines on the screen? And he goes, oh, it's just this hack. I'm like, what hack? So basically he installed a hack that basically Pinocchio'd every character in the game. So they have like this big polygon line coming through their nose, so you can see where they are, like going through the walls and stuff. So it's just basically a hack. You know where everybody is, right? And that's what that's what gives you the edge. It's cheating. So like, let's say this technology, like obviously it's not going to hack the game, but if there's like, it can detect like muzzle flashes, and then it can instantly just highlight where enemies are. versus using your own spatial awareness. That's cheating to me. Like it's a similar
100%.
thing.
But agree.
It's like it's trying to make it to give you the competitive edge.
Yeah. And see, in games like MSI were showcasing this tech with a game of League on the showroom floor.
Yeah.
And
so is this monitor like just designed for League players, basically?
No. It doesn't stop there, Kosta. No, let's scroll down to AI upgrade possibility. Now this is where it gets fun.
Okay.
So trainable AI models. So you are able to put the game files of your game into this AI model, and it will use your PC hardware to train the AI model and give you certain enhancing, it says here, significantly enhancing usability across various scenarios and games. So it's going to give you advantages in games, and you'll be able to customly train an AI model to do this. Now, because this is all happening on the monitor, after the AI model, after the custom AI model is trained.
There's no way to detect it, is there?
No.
Because this is happening after the video signal is sent to the display, right?
Yep. It bypasses all software. It bypasses all anti-cheats. It bypasses everything. Steam, the Steam, was it Vanguard?
Yeah, VAC.
VAC ban or whatever. Yeah, all of that gone. And MSI is going to be training a in-house AI model on Counter-Strike and Dota 2. So
So let's just say, like, okay, so the one check that the game developers can do is that, like, obviously when you've got this monitor connected to your PC, the PC knows the brand of the monitor, right? So there is some communication with the display. So, like, was it Riot who does League? So they can basically say, if you fire up the game and there's enough backlash or whatever, you can't play, like, you go to play like a ranked match, and then it says, sorry, you can't play ranked because you're using this display.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's gonna come to that.
Like, sorry, you can't play ranked because you're using this display.
It will come to that.
Ranked. So, like, it could come to that. And this probably won't be the first, and then this will end up being like, there'll be like a blacklist of like. But then there'll be like hacks to try and trick your PC into thinking you've got a different monitor. Like this is opening the door to a whole new level of, I guess, the next level of cheating.
Well, it's
cheating
AI
in games is rampant anyway.
AI implementation is, so I wrote in the in the article, whether you disagree with the use of new AI technology in competitive games or not, and if you don't, you should ask yourself, how is this different from a prohibited plugin? Which it isn't. It's just happening on the monitor now and not in software.
A lot of those hacks are just like awareness things where they would just show you more information, right?
Absolutely. Using the information that's already provided, which is MSI's argument.
Yeah.
I said, whether you agree or disagree, and perhaps I should play devil's advocate to my own argument. Many gamers argue that having a faster PC or a better mouse or a better internet connection gives you the competitive edge against your competition.
Yeah, to a degree, and it does. Yeah.
I don't think... Some people are going to argue that what's the difference between those two things? I personally think there is a massive difference between having a better mouse or less lag, maybe not less lag, but a better mouse or hardware versus having a heads-up display that tells me where my enemies are.
Yeah. It's a difference between like just running the game faster and like having better equipment or whatever. That's like there's going to be a difference, but then like a good player is going to be skill will still be able to close the gap in a lot of those cases. But when it comes to like outright like additional information, then there's nothing you can do to sort of like close that gap.
Yep. So this monitor is going to set, I think it's going to set a precedent. And what I was about to finish off saying on the previous paragraph there was, whether you disagree with the use of AI technology in competitive games or not, there is something everyone should agree on. This is just the beginning of AI coming into gaming. If this is just happening on the monitor and all processing is happening on the monitor, how else is AI going to be come into games in a way that is going to disrupt the industry? And I'm not talking in the positive sense of this, because we can think of RPGs and all of that. That's brilliant. I want AI to be in there. I want there to be like an AI director that gives me like a kind of like unique playthrough or makes interacting with NPCs that much better. But what about the bad side of it? What about stuff like this? Like this is seriously just a red dot that pops up on the screen, and it has annoyed me that it's there.
What about like AI bots? And then if you connect this to a bot that then just can assist you when you're playing, you know, and it's undetectable because the behavior is indistinguishable from a real player. But I think obviously not final, but I think it's funny that it's like a QD OLED. So while you're you know, using AI, the game's gonna look pretty damn good. Because I mean, outside, take the AI chip away, this is gonna be like a really good monitor because it's one of MSI's new QD OLEDs.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Just before we move off this story, this same monitor, and another AI feature that's a part of this AI package that comes with this display is at the base of the monitor. And I didn't talk about this in the article because I didn't really care too much about it, but it's worth mentioning here. If you click on the first image that's provided, it's a health bar indicator spectrum bar. So at the center base of your monitor playing League, the light will determine how much health you have. I don't think that's cheating at all. Like,
there's this that's like that goes into like accessibility sort of like areas, you know, like, you know, for colorblind and things like that, where games can, you know, like people with sight issues and stuff like that, where you can putting an emphasis on certain things is helpful. Yeah,
MSI writes on its CES showroom floor card, designed to auto detect the game while you're immersed in gaming. The monitor projects health onto the spectrum bar in corresponding colors, seamlessly integrating your health status and allowing you to stay focused on the action without missing a beat. Yeah, this one I don't think is too big of an issue. The health bar, I'm like, I mean, if League, I don't think there would be any advantage to being able to move your health bar or like the little thing that pops up at when you're in game showing your abilities and stuff to the top of your screen. Like if Riot gave you that customization, I don't think that's going to change the competitive nature of the game drastically. But the AI thing where like, you know, you get an awareness buffs essentially, I think that's completely different. And yeah, they didn't actually talk about this too much because I can't find press releases on AI Sky site. I looked. This could be something that is flown under the radar.
This could be one of their like displays that like they're not sure, or like that they're not actually ready to release yet, and it's just like a CES showcase.
Oh, now that you say that, MSI hasn't said when it will be exactly releasing the MEG 321 URX, but reports indicate that sometime in late February for a price of $11.99. So it is coming out.
Launch it. All right.
Which is, I mean, I'm going to go on and I'm going to test it and I want to see how much of an advantage, because I'll train this in, if I can train it, Apex Legends. That would be crazy. Like any esports game, any game, this is going to be weird to have. Like it feels like you're going to have like a little Jack and Daxter, like a little Daxter being like, look over there. There.
I think it would be fun for like a single player game. You know, like an Age of Empires or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't really consider it in that sense.
And stuff like that.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's something to keep on the radar. AI is coming to gaming, and yeah, I don't know how I necessarily feel about this one, besides my feathers being ruffled. It's not ideal, I don't think, but we'll see how the industry reacts. What do we have next on the menu here, Kosta?
Time for the super.
Yep, let's do it. Dive in. Let me know.
Okay. So the very first super GPU of 3 this month is here. And as I wrote in my review of the Founders Edition model of the GeForce RTX 4070 Super, is that the first RTX 40 Super GPU is here. And if the 4070 Super is any indication, we're in for a wild ride as exceptional 1440p performance meets next level efficiency. Oof. So this is a brilliant release from probably the most impressive GeForce launch from NVIDIA since the 4090 for a number of reasons. But I'll just say like one cool one is that the Founders Edition card and the Inno 3D Twin X2 card that I reviewed, they're both using the reference specs for the 4070 Super. But they're 2-slot cards that are light and don't draw that much power, don't generate too much heat. So it hits a performance class and a potential mass market size that we haven't seen before in a while. So when you think of like 3090 levels of performance, which is what this delivers in most cases, 3090 graphics cards are huge, right? Because they're kind of like the flagship prototypes. So this is like one of the first sort of like, not the first, but like this is like a GPU release that takes something that was previously like this huge, massive thing, shrinks it down, makes it more compact, makes it more mass market. And where usually when we see with GPUs, it's always prototypes. It's always like, here's chunky coolers, here's like super power, and then 2 years later, we do the same thing.
This is refined.
This is like refined. This is like a proper refresh.
Yeah.
And so spec-wise, it's got like 20% more cores, CUDA cores, 20% more RT cores, 20% more Tensor AI cores than the regular 4070. And outside of that, the clock speeds are pretty much the same by default. The memory configuration is pretty much the same in terms of its 12 gig of the fast GDDR6X, but they've increased the L2 cache, and L2 cache is kind of like is now 48 meg. It basically reduces memory traffic, and it makes games makes performance more stable. So you're like, when frame rates dip, they don't dip as drastically because you've got that buffer of more like memory, and that's sort of like something that you find more on like CPUs. Like Ryzen has like big cache, like the 3D stacked V cache. The reason why they're good for games because you got that extra memory like right there that you can constantly, that is like like light speed levels of speed compared to like trying to call on actual like system RAM and stuff like that, or VRAM.
Makes the handshakes more stable.
Exactly. And so the 4070 Super at 1440p is faster than a 3090.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
It is. So this is like the reference card. So I'm also reviewing, by the time this episode goes live, is the Asus TUF gaming model, right? And that's like a 3-fan, triple slot, like chunky card. But it looks good. It's a great GPU that you can fit in a card. But it's because it's a 4070 Super, it's lighter than like a 4080 TUF or a 4090 TUF, even though it's it's not as big as those, but it's still pretty big. But it's lightweight, and it runs incredibly cool. Like that's like obviously cooler than these because it's got more heat sinks and more fans and stuff. But that is overclocked, and that one outperforms the Founders Edition here by a noticeable amount, not a huge amount, but like enough to make you go, oh, maybe I'll get an OC model, because that pushes performance even higher in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So basically, if the Radeon 7800 XT was AMD's play for like a more affordable 4070 that didn't quite match it in ray tracing performance, but outperformed it in non-ray tracing performance in most cases, the 4070 Super is more expensive than the 7800 XT, but it is more powerful in every single test, and its ray tracing performance is in a way higher tier, and plus you've got the added bonus of the premium that you would pay for DLSS, which is the gold standard for upscaling, NVIDIA's frame generation, which is more impressive than AMD's frame generation so far, but both are obviously still early, so they're not everywhere, and it's not something that you would always enable. But then you got like that new reconstruction ray tracing now looks like way better than it did, and that's exclusive as well. So there's like a lot of little things that they've released in between, like, you know, when the 40 series first launched, you know, DLSS 3 is now in a lot of games, and it's something that a lot of people are embracing. Frame gen, you know, AMD have got their version out now, Intel have got their version out, so it is a thing that's here to stay. So it's not like it's not a passing fad. And DLSS obviously. So like even like, you know, at 4K, the 15 game average is like 73 FPS on the 4070 Super Founders Edition. So obviously, you know, like the 4090 is a triple digit 4K card, but this is like a 4K 60 card. That's without DLSS. With DLSS, you can comfortably hit in like the high 80s, 90s with ultra settings, things maxed out in 4K in a 2-slot card that's only drawing 200 watts of power, which is 40+% less than the 3090.
That's so impressive.
30% less than the 7800 XT while outperforming it than AMD's card.
Wow.
It's, you know, so like as a complete package, like it is damn impressive.
It's so refined.
And I loved like the, you know, 3D's Twin X2 model because it's, I thought like the only thing that was like a downside, I'm like, because it's like a bland design, like it's one of those, it's like a MSRP card, so it's going to be sold for the launch price set by NVIDIA. It's not going to be like the Asus card will be more expensive because it's got, you know, better, more advanced cooling, premium cooling, triple fans, overclocked, whereas this one is just like as is, no overclock. No, out of the box overclock. You can obviously overclock it yourself if you want. And Inno3D in the review guide said, yeah, like you can overclock it modestly, no problem. But it's like, you know, it's got no RGB lighting. It's just a black and grey design, simple and 2-slot and compact. So like it doesn't look amazing as a GPU, but it's just like this. It could fit in like a mini ITX build quite easily, and you don't even have to worry about cooling.
Yeah, it looks nice. I love minimalism.
Same.
I'm such a sucker for it. I was never big on all the RGB lighting. Like, I feel like we're in the phase of PC gaming where they're kind of phasing out. Like, people are getting a bit tired of the rainbow. And we're starting to see a bit more of like minimalistic designs, which definitely excites me because I love that two-tone that they've got going there for the, you know, 3D. That's sick. Yeah,
I like it too. And there's a white version that actually does look pretty slick. I should add that because they sent like the white version of the 4070, the one with the that had like the hidden power cable, and so yeah, that version was in white, and it was like this that
was it blue as well,
sort of like design. No, it's kind of like a
or is that the like Arc? What one did you show on the podcast?
That was the Arc.
Yeah, that was the Arc.
That was the sapphire ones. That's like a stylish, super stylish card.
I love that. I love the way that one looks. No, this is awesome, man. It seems like NVIDIA has really pushed the 40 series to its absolute brink, like peak here, while also refining it down. Yeah, this feels like a diamond.
Yeah. So like the 4070 was a great card, right? Like it's a popular card. So like it's the most popular card on Steam for the series because it hits that sort of price spot with performance and stuff like that. So at 1440p, the Super is like 13+% faster, 15% faster if you've got like an OC model, like the Asus one. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but like the thing is the 4070 was already good. So if you add 15% and close to 20% in some cases in 4K because of the increased cache and more cores, what you've got is like 3090 levels of performance. Like it kind of like tips it into that sort of like flagship like it goes from like 3080 to 3090, which is like, so that was great. So now it's a beast sort of thing. Like it's enough to push it over the line.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it so impressive.
It's considered. Go ahead. Sorry.
And so like one of the byproducts of this is that now that I've seen the 4070 Super, the Founders Edition, and the Twin X2, and now this new Asus model, I understand why there's 3 super cards coming this month and why they're so close together. The 4070 Super, like that bump, means that it's within 5% of the 4070 Ti. Okay. So that card is now obsolete, and that card is like $200 US more for like 5% of performance, right?
Yeah.
So that's why there's the 4070 Ti Super like coming like next week, and we'll talk about that next week. Is because they have to, because like that has to be like, it's now so close that you have to like bump that up.
Yeah.
And if you bump that up, you have to bump up the 4080. So now there's the 4080 Super as well, which lowers the price. Or maybe the reason for So you have to like rejig the whole lineup.
The whole
stack.
So
the 4070 Ti is now being discontinued, and I understand why, because the 4070 Super is so close to it that there's no point having that and a 4070 Ti Super. So get rid of that, replace it with a more powerful version at the same price, and at the same time lower the price of the 4080 and give it a little bump in performance as well. So it's kind of like they've kind of like refreshing the entire lineup in addition to launching a new model, because the 4070 Super doesn't replace the 4070. The 4070 is now going to be cheaper, so it's going to be like a great option at its new price point. So by launching this, they've had to like the performance changes to the point where they have to like rejig the lineup.
So how close is it will be the 4080 Super, which you don't have yet, right?
I do, but I can't say without, like, let's say.
Okay, let's do. I hear you. My question was, how close is the 4080 Super's approximate performance to the 4090? Because as you were saying, the whole stack has kind of shit. So if like the 4090 is right at the top, the whole stack has shifted up just a tad. Yeah. And the cards that aren't new will get a price deduction, I think, and remain at the same level of performance as they are now, while giving. That's such a smart move, I'm thinking, because gamers will see the 4070 still be able to get really good performance across the board. But if they do want to push it more, now they have an option without taking like a bigger leap. So how close do you think the 4080 Super will land compared to the 4090 performance?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like the 4080 Super is probably the I guess the one that's a little bit different to the 4070 Super and the Ti Super, which is all about like more performance for the same price. The 4080 Super is dropping the price by $200 from $1,200 to $999 to under $1,000, which puts it directly against AMD's 7900 XTX, their flagship, right? So they don't have a 4090 competitor. Right. And if they lower the price, bump the performance to kind of either match AMD's card in non-ray tracing, but obviously always be ahead when it comes to ray tracing, then it kind of like relaunches that card as a option, as like a flagship that's more affordable. I think like the 4090 exists in a tier of its own. It does, because the 4090 doesn't have any competition. There's no reason for NVIDIA to lower the price. There's no reason for them to release like a 4090 Ti, because what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're going to give... They'll obviously sell some, but like, why give people an extra 5 to 10% more performance over what is already unmatched?
Yeah, that's true.
At this point, you know what I mean? So like, it exists in a class, in a tier of its own. So the 4080, which like is probably the least popular card in the entire lineup, because at its price point, it's like it was already too close. Like if you're already spending that amount of money, you might as well just buy a 4090, because it's going to be noticeably more powerful.
Yeah.
And if you spend, a notable amount less, you can get AMD's flagship and it's going to beat it in a bunch of games. But then obviously, it's still like, AMD's flagship is good for ray tracing because it's it's the fully unlocked GPU, so it's obviously going to be pushing things as far as it can go. It's not at that level of the 4080, but it's decent.
Where do you? When will we learn more, or about if you have an NDA date with the 4080 Super?
January 31st. So.
Okay, so a couple more episodes, then we can get stuck into that. Okay, well, so overall, just to summarize, how do you feel? You think this is a very, very good release by NVIDIA?
Yeah, I think so. Because the 4070, the people might complain that the downside to this is that it's 12 gigs of VRAM instead of 16. They didn't bump it up because it's, because it's on 192, because of the bus speed. So it's a 192-bit bus, it goes 12, 24. If it's on a 256-bit bus, you can do 8. It has to be divisible, right? So you go to 8 gig or 16 gig. So, the 4090 is a 24 gig because it's on a 320-bit bus. So, it's just, it has to be divisible. So if they were going to make the 4070 16 gig with the 4070 Super, they would have had to redesign the memory for the actual chipset, and it would have probably pushed the price into would have actually made it more costly. So I think they hit, but by increasing the cache to 48 meg, but also the increased cores, is that it's 16% faster than the 4070 at 4K for 4K gaming, which is enough to push it right up to the 3090 in most cases. Obviously, there are games where the 3090's 24 gig of VRAM is just going to be of faster memory is just going to give it the edge, and that's always going to be the case. But in most cases, it's up there. And one of the criticisms that I had with the 4070 at launch is that it's tailor-made for super fast 1440p gaming, but when you bump it up to 4K,
suffers.
Certain ultra wide resolutions, the drop off is a bit too much.
Yeah, when that VRAM just isn't enough.
Yeah, or whatever it was, because this is a good 16%, or even in some games it's 20% faster at 4K. So it's okay, that's a whole performance class higher. And so it must have been a mixture of the VRAM, but also
the L2,
the actual additional CUDA cores and stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a decent 4K card too.
Yeah, wow. So this is 4K 60 in some games, 1440p, 240, 144.
Yeah, around about there, 144.
In between.
Okay, 1440p, yeah. But you can push with DLSS to 200 FPS in 1440p quite easily. You can push to 100 in 4K if with DLSS, and if you turn down if you optimize a few settings here and there, because you can always boost performance by optimizing settings. My benchmarks are all putting games at their max settings. And a lot of those max settings you don't really need. You can if you turn down shadows from ultra to high in a lot of games, and that doesn't really change how it looks.
Much,
you can barely tell, and in some cases you can't tell, but you can get 10% performance from that.
Yeah.
And I'm also putting together a new benchmarking PC for either the end of this month for trying to get it done by the 4080 Super, or the following month. So I'm going to redo all the games, choose it's going to be a whole new bunch of different games we're going to test. Going to retest all these super GPUs again, and all the other GPUs, put together a bunch of features on the 24 for this year, what the actual GPU performance classes are, what the ones to pick, and that'll be a whole bunch of stuff that we'll dig into in the next few months for what's the best value now that everything's kind of out in the open.
Yeah.
So with a new rig, I'll be able to retest everything and then put together a whole bunch of guides and on advice on basically to show the data on where everything excels, and that in a more updated list of, and try to optimize, because now you have to optimize these benchmarks for you have to cover frame gen, you have to cover DLSS upscaling, you have to cover ray tracing, you have to cover non-ray tracing.
So much more testing.
It's a lot more involved. But
Yeah.
so that's happening too.
It's a lot more testing, especially with all these new techs that are dropping.
Yeah,
because you got to run the benchmark for DLSS on, then you got to run it for it off, then you got to run it for FSR, and then that's just one res. Then you got to do it all again for 1080p, and then you got to do it all again for 4K. By the end of it, you've done 12 benchmarks on the one game.
Yeah,
and that benchmark might be 3 minutes each.
I mean, whatever the case is, like Cyberpunk is still the PC killer for like ultra settings. So that game in like ultra, like with or without ray tracing,
it's heavy.
Kills every GPU that isn't a 4090.
It melts it. I'm looking at it.
Destroys them. Like it just destroys everything. But like the good thing is that with FrameGen, with this at 1440p ray tracing ultra settings, the game looks very, very like it still looks incredible at that. You can get close to 120 FPS with this.
God,
ray tracing like native rendering, ray tracing Cyberpunk is like you're not meant to do that anyway. Like it's meant to be played with DLSS. Like that's because it's how hardcore the ray tracing is. So like you see like it's only 44 FPS without DLSS and stuff. You go that's not great, but it's playable. You know, if you're willing to sacrifice performance for fidelity, and you can.
Yeah.
But you just put on DLSS at quality mode, and I use quality mode for all my testing because it looks as close to native, and it's hard to argue against DLSS quality mode because it maintains that visual quality. So that 44 goes to 77 FPS. And you're like, great, that's like a massive bump.
That's
way
good.
Smoother, excellent. And then you're like, all right, what if I turn on FrameGen? So you turn on FrameGen, and then the extra AI hardware kicks in, and that 77 goes to 118 FPS. Now that's perceived performance because it's not real, because it's AI generating frames, so it's not actually real, right? I mean, like technically that's what it is.
Real, yeah.
But it looks good, and Reflex keeps the latency down, and ray reconstruction makes the RT look better than native. So Cyberpunk with RT Ultra with ray reconstruction at 120 FPS looks better than the native version running at 44 FPS. You know, that's where the technology has gone. So it is like the future. So that's why it kind of like you kind of have to like include, or you have to like test that sort of stuff because it's relevant. Because that's where the technology is headed. Like this is the first version of it. Like imagine like 2 generations of GPUs from now, like how good FrameGen is going to be.
Oh yeah.
How good DLSS quality and or AMD's FSR or Intel's XeSS or like their versions of FrameGen, like everybody's all going to be doing this. Like, you know, Microsoft is putting AI, you know, the leaks say they're putting AI chips in their next gen Xbox. Yeah. There's rumors that the PS5 Pro, which is a refresh of the current gen console, that Sony are putting AI hardware in the console just for upscaling, just for things like FrameGen potentially. So, you know, like this is the future. So like, it's not going
offloading
anywhere.
it to separate hardware. That makes perfect sense. I mean, it's already been established with the CUDA cores, et cetera, in the GPUs. That is the dedicated AI hardware, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Tensor cores.
Yeah, Tensor cores. Sorry, yes, Tensor cores.
This has 20% more Tensor cores, 20% more RT cores, and 20% more CUDA cores than the 4070. So, and that equates to not exactly 20% in every game. In some games, sure, but like, you know, closer to 15% bump in performance across the board. Same price as the 4070, which makes it, and it's super efficient. And it's only like uses 10% more power, right? So like the performance bump is higher than the extra power usage, right? So that just shows you how incredibly efficient the 40 series is. Like the 40 series is unmatched in terms of efficiency because the performance bump you're getting is higher than the extra power it's drawing. Which is usually unheard of. Usually, like, you know, it's like a trade-off. Like if you want to push or overclock a GPU or push an architecture, like you increase the clocks, you add more cores, but then you're bumping what was 200 watts is now 350. And for that extra 150 watts, you're getting 25% more performance, but you're using 35% more power or 40%. You know, like it's usually like, you know, like, and then at a certain point they have to like say, well, it's not worth it because well, what are we going to do? Put 1,000 watts through this card and just to get 2% extra performance?
Yeah.
You know, like it hits that sort of thing. And there's that curve for every GPU, including the 40 series.
Yeah, the bell curve.
But the curve is just like, it is just incredibly efficient. It's only when you get to the 4090 that you start getting into that territory of like, well, we could push more power through this, but it's not worth it, because that's where it kind of like tops out.
Just to finish off this segment here. So if you have what kind of card in your PC right now, you would recommend them to go get a 4070 Super? Is this the new card to get?
If you had like a 3070 and you're looking to upgrade, then you're looking at a massive bump in performance across the board. If you got, and that's like usually like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to get like a high end card, like if you really want to get like a high end card for PC gaming in 2024, then this has it. Yeah. So if you got a previous gen, even if you got like a 3080, you could argue that it's worth upgrading.
Wow. Okay. So if you're running a 1440p 4K monitor, 4K, you could probably
ultra wide,
even ultra wide as well. Yeah.
Because it's good for 4K. That means it's great for ultra wide builds.
Yeah. Because that's right in the middle in terms
but even
of
like if you're running like like a 2080 Ti from like a couple of generations ago, right? And that was like the top card from the 20 series. So I don't have it benchmarked here, but a 2080 Ti was kind of like a 3070 or just under that sort of like levels of performance. So this is like 40% to 45% to 50% faster in non-ray tracing, but then a lot faster with ray tracing. And then obviously you've got frame gen as well, and plus it's way more efficient as well. That's the other thing, is that you're getting more for less. So it's more powerful, but it's also using a lot less power.
Would you describe this card as the king of 1440p?
I would argue that it is, yeah, for sure.
There you have it,
and
folks.
The 4070 Ti Super, when that comes out, I like that, but that's more expensive. I think that's like kind of like more of like an entry level 4K, 4K card. That's kind of like that's what I'm predicting. Whereas this is just like uncompromised 1440p gaming.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. If you have some previous gen cards, 3070, 2080 Ti.
Yeah.
Anything below that, and you're running a 1440p monitor, ultra wide 4K. Don't play games in 4K, just change your res. You've got there's a new card on the market that will knock your socks off. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah. I'm like tempted just to, I got a 4090, but I'm tempted just to have like a super efficient 4070 Super build.
You want to reduce your electricity. And it's a found,
yeah. The Found Edition looks so good in black too.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The black looks so nice. No, that is awesome. I'm glad to see NVIDIA just squeeze whatever the remaining performance and efficiency out of the 40 series. I think that's awesome. What did you want to move on to next?
I'll just keep it with frame generation. This is a quick story because AMD, I don't know if like they're throwing shade or not. Anyway, with an interview with PC Gamer, so at CES, AMD announced their new mainstream card with 16 gig of VRAM. That's like more for AI than gaming, it seems. But at the same time, they've announced that their version of frame generation at the driver level, which is called Fluid Motion Frames, is launching later this month. And that means all Radeon 6000 RDNA 2 card owners from like a couple of years ago, as well as the new card owners, will be able to enable frame generation in every DirectX 11 and 12 game at the driver level.
Wow.
Now, there is like an asterisk here. So fluid motion frames at the driver level means that it doesn't have direct access to game data. It's basically just what's being fed through the GPU. And by that, it means that there's no like sort of like motion vectors or things that like, DLSS frame generation uses to predict, to have like past, future, like, like by, using motion vectors in like a game engine to like, which is why DLSS looks as good as it does, and which is why AMD's FSR3 and their frame generation uses motion vectors as well, or a way to track motion to like that's the only way you can kind of like predict for upscaling and things like frame generation to make it look really, really good. So fluid motion frames is kind of like a lo-fi version of frame gen. It's been in preview, and it's a lot of the feedback has been mixed, as that it boosts performance, but the visual quality
suffers
and noticeably. And sometimes there's frame pacing issues, and sometimes there's latency issues, or whatever the case is. But there's, as a concept, to be able to just have it all at the driver level, to be able to enable that technology, it is exciting, and it's something that's kind of new. And so, speaking with PC Gamer, AMD's one of their spokespeople, one of their Radeon team members, Aaron Steinman, said that it would be curious to know if AMD, he says, telling PC Gamer that, I would be curious to know if NVIDIA feels they have to match what we've done in making these solutions driver-based, and adding DLSS is only available on certain solutions.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
So either NVIDIA will benefit from our solution because we make it open source and cross-vendor, or they're going to need to do something similar. Now, if NVIDIA added like a one-click button on their GeForce Experience app that said enable frame gen in all games and enable DLSS in all games, and there doesn't need to be game support, that would be incredible to see, but it's not entirely possible because of their technologies have to be embedded in games.
Yeah.
So what AMD says is true to a point, but it's kind of like... So like NVIDIA have like a thing called image sharpening in their drivers, and has been there for like a decade.
Yeah.
And it's basically upscaling, right? So you can boost performance by like it's in the control panel. So it's like in like the old school NVIDIA control panel, and you select NVIDIA image upscaling, and you say like render at like 86%.
Okay.
And then use the image scaling to fill out the rest of to basically upscale or blow up the image using like scaling using like basically a scaling technique, which is like an right, and that's been around for ages. But the reason why it's not a household name, like, well, not that DLSS is like, but if you're into PC gaming,
I hear you.
Right?
I hear you.
The reason why it's not at that level is because the image quality it looks like upscaling, right? It doesn't look like native. You know that it's upscaling, and you're sacrificing image quality for performance. The reason why DLSS and everybody else is now doing upscaling, or why upscaling is a main feature of game releases and GPU releases, is because it managed to hit that image quality level that's on par with native resolution, or so good that you don't know the difference, and that so it's free. It enters that free performance territory where it's like a magic trick.
Yeah, and the hardware is there to not make the game suffer, so it's not like you would put upscaling on, and the game, like, you would get less frames. It's like the hardware's so good now that you can turn it on and get more.
Okay. Sorry about that. Had a bit of a network technical issue, but to wrap that up about frame generation, basically AMD's driver-based approach is more games, more player support, but it's not... the image quality isn't up there with NVIDIA's approach with DLSS, which is AI hardware and image quality and performance, frame generation. But also the reason why these technologies are, so popular now or talked about now is because of the quality level that DLSS has hit. And so everybody else is playing catch up. But this driver-based approach is interesting, but I don't see it happening for NVIDIA because, unless it leverages it'll still be limited to like GPUs with AI hardware, because there's just no other way around it. And per game implementation means you have access to more game data, which means more accurate upscaling, more accurate frame generation too. So it's an interesting one that AMD would say that they're ahead when it comes to this sort of technology. But anyway, we'll move on.
Yes, it is interesting. The frame generation stuff is, I mean, it's going to be awesome in the future. A couple generations ahead, we're going to be laughing. Should we move on to the transparent displays? Some more leftover CES coverage.
Yeah. So we talked about so many displays last week at CES. So much OLED goodness coming, but there were CES is always also about prototypes, and because OLED displays are now gigantic anyway, or LED TVs get so big now that it's not that impressive seeing a gigantic one anymore.
Yeah.
So what we've got from LG is a signature OLED, which is transparent, that uses transparent technology. And Samsung showed the world's first transparent micro LED screen. This sort of technology, I don't think you're going to be watching movies or playing games on them. Maybe, I don't know, but basically means that a glass panel can also just become a high quality display. Which is the sort of thing that is perfect for CES, because if you saw this in person, you'd be like, whoa, look at that. I think why they kind of announce them.
I think this kind of tech is going to be mostly purchased by businesses.
Yeah,
and that might be a hot take, but I can see this in a restaurant or shop window.
Mm-hmm.
Advertising being put onto these displays. I think that's where most of the sales will come from.
Yeah,
but
having a high quality waterfall on a glass panel is ooh, that looks cool.
It's more like a feature display. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be playing Apex on it, or any of the new modern RPG games, or any. I mean, I would like to see games played on it, but I don't think it'll be very good. Still, very cool panel technology. Maybe you should mention some of the the LG's in-house Zero Connect box.
Oh,
did you see that?
Yeah, that's impressive. That's where it
wireless video and audio transmission.
Yeah.
It streams to the TV. It doesn't play on the actual panel itself. It receives the data, audio and video, and then projects that onto the screen. I think that's that's
something that they talked about a while ago. But it's impressive because it gets rid of the need to having to connect cables to a TV, because it's all just to a box. And there's a direct connection, is because you're talking about HDMI 2.1 speeds, right? Which is 48 gigabits per second or something like
ridiculous.
that. So so it's just it has to sustain a super fast, Wi-Fi signal to the TV, which will be kind of, I guess, an additional noticeable additional cost to any sort of TV. Will be sold separately most likely and just have that functionality built in initially. But yeah, TVs going wireless is cool to see.
Very cool. What a unique... Do we have a release date for these? Are these actually hitting the market? Because every year there seems to be some new transparent tech thing at CES, but none of them ever come to the market.
Yeah, I don't this is their signature OLED. Yeah, I don't think that...
What about the Samsung one?
Yeah, the Samsung one is a prototype. The Samsung one, I think, was definitely a prototype.
I'm just going to search for a release date.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing on it. Of course. Of course.
Yeah, the other prototype that Samsung showed, and this one was definitely a prototype because it was just called Samsung 2D, 3D monitor. So, back in the days, when after Avatar came out at the cinemas, or just before then, when Avatar was announced it's going to be 3D, and then everybody started releasing 3D movies, and then all these 3D TVs started launching. Remember, before 4K, it was everybody bought a 3D TV, and then you had it came with 3 pairs of glasses.
Yeah, and then everyone realized they were dumb, and they sucked.
Right, but glasses free 3D is impressive still, right?
Nintendo
in the
3DS
was cool. So Samsung, like, there's a lot of caveats here. This is a prototype. It's only a 24-inch display at this point. But basically, this monitor has a eye tracking camera on the display itself, so it tracks your eye and head placement, and because of that, and it can track multiple people as well.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure the technology will be able to do that. So what that means is that it can adjust the stereoscopic 3D effect, so it looks good no matter if you move left or right or whatever the case is from the display. You won't lose that effect. It'll always be accurate. So like, you look around, like, the image will remain stable. And they showcase it with games, like at CES. They showcase it with Lies of P, which is an action RPG.
Yeah, Souls
from last year. And everybody that saw this 2D, 3D monitor said it was impressive, like having that it can transform like a 2D game to 3D. And transforming like a 2D game to 3D has existed. Remember, like NVIDIA had like their 3D glasses, and like it was built into like the GeForce and like certain monitors where you could have like, you could make any game 2D, 3D, because all it is just like a stereoscopic effect, and that has existed for a while. You can make 2D images 3D. So that's not the magic part. The impressive part is the eye tracking, but also the impressive part is like VR games. So like you can play like VR games without with the monitor creating like the spatial awareness and look without actually having to have a VR headset on, because they got it working with Steam VR.
Wow. Just on the 2D, 3D thing, Acer did unveil its 27-inch 4K Predator 3D gaming monitor. So is this something that we're going to start to see more of? I'll link it to you in Discord here.
I don't know. I still think 3D is a fad.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, I think it'll always be kind of impressive, but I think it's still a fad.
$2,000, man. So here's the specs just for this.
Yep.
States this newest 3D monitor will come with 160 hertz refresh rate, 400 nits brightness, FreeSync, G-Sync, and a price tag of $2,000. It's 27-inch. I don't know. Is this something that we're going to see more of?
That requires glasses though, Acer's one, or no?
No, I don't think it. Hold on. I don't think it does.
That's the thing, yeah. Because if it doesn't require glasses, then
no, not to my knowledge. I'll check the press release. Glasses.
Oh yeah, it's like glasses
without the need. Yeah, without the need for specialized glasses. Says in the press release. Wow.
So yeah, so it's like so that's very similar. Maybe like it doesn't quite do the head tracking that Samsung's does. So then Samsung can kind of like support VR gaming because of head tracking.
Yep.
So it can the 3D world of the VR world can be just like within your monitor, and you can just look around and it will just track your head. But which is kind of like still seems kind of really niche, and like that would only work for certain games. But Glasses 3D, I mean, like you should reach out to Acer because test.
Oh yeah, I've got a contact there. Yeah, I'm definitely.
I haven't used a 3D TV since the days of like the glasses, and I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, I can't imagine me enjoying it, but
if it's glasses free though, like that's what it has to be, right?
Maybe it will be good. We'll find out. Is that all you had on those ones? Yeah, that's just a quick little update on the more monitors on CES. Should we switch gears a little bit here?
Yeah, let's go some science.
Yeah, let's go Elon. So Elon stood in front of all employees at SpaceX for an hands-on meeting. All hands meeting, sorry. The meeting went for about an hour. He just went over all of the achievements SpaceX made throughout the year, while also kind of informing the employees what SpaceX expects out of 2024. But he revealed that there is going to be some new additions to both Starbase and also Starship, and I just wanted to concentrate more so on the updates around Starship because that is the biggest and best rocket ever. So first up, we have an explanation from Musk on why Starship exploded during its Flight 2, second orbital attempt flight. That was, I think it was in December? No. I don't know. It was late last year.
About then, yeah.
Yeah, it was approximately, late last year. Both, for those that don't know, the Flight 1, Flight 2 both ended in explosions. And while that might sound disheartening, that is the process with these things. Mm-hmm. That is the developmental process with rockets, especially ones that are pushing the envelope of what's possible in terms of flight. Starship is the biggest object that is ever taken to the skies. It is the biggest rocket. It is the biggest, it's the most powerful rocket. It's never been done before. The envelope is being pushed forward by SpaceX. So Musk said on stage that while stage separation, which is the booster separating from the Starship vehicle itself, was achieved, which is monumental milestone for reaching orbit. The only reason Starship didn't reach orbit is that SpaceX decided to release the liquid oxygen, which led to a fire on the side of the rocket itself, and boom. Now Musk said we normally wouldn't have that liquid oxygen if we had a payload. So ironically, if we had a payload, it would have reached orbit.
Right.
Which is a bit that's unfortunate, because it would have been awesome if Starship reached orbit on its second flight. But Musk said during the presentation that they're very confident that this flight, Flight 3, the upcoming flight, will reach orbit, which will be a humongous step forward, especially considering how many times previous, like the Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, how many times those rockets exploded before they were able to reach orbit. Once orbit is really reached, the timeline for 2024 is, I think they want to land it in the ocean first, and then they want to do the tower. They want it because SpaceX they've set up a tower that is designed to have chopsticks, and they want to catch the largest object ever flown with two little arms. So Starship will fall right down in the middle there, and then the two little arms will brace it. 2024, SpaceX are aiming to hopefully have in the bag, what are they? I want to try and remember the official name for this, but it's when you refill in orbit, which is critical for critical for trips to the moon, it's just critical for just exploration of the solar system in general. Just being able to get that tech nailed down, of being able to pull up Starship, being able to pull up next to essentially a petrol station in space, suck down all of its fuel, and then continue on its journey. That's
the thing, right? Like like any sort of like science fiction thing or futuristic thing, like, the ones that are realistic, like, when it comes to like refueling, obviously that's in orbit, but also like spaceship construction, like that's all done in orbit, because then you don't have to worry about leaving an atmosphere, like, like if it's like a big rocket or something like that, that would be like built or like put together in space, fueled up in space, and then take off from there, and then like you go into orbit and then like land with like a lander or whatever the case is. Like it's not efficient to like have like tons and tons of fuel and giant rockets going up and down onto planetary surface. It's just not feasible in the long term. So this is cool. Like all these tests will just move us closer and closer to that.
He being Musk expects that they're going to be working on, or even having that tech completed by the end of this year. And just and if you follow anything Musk does, his timelines are, let's just say, optimistically shot to hell. So take that with a grain of salt, but SpaceX is making progress. That is for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if Flight 3 we do reach orbit with Starship.
I hope it does.
I really hope it does as well. That would be awesome. Another stage. Oh, no, not stage. I just want to make sure I got this here. So another thing that he mentioned during the presentation is that they were going to be constructing a second tower. They call it the two towers in Texas. So one of
reference to the Lord of the Rings.
That's immediately what I thought. I had to stop myself from putting
towers. It's like
I had to stop myself from putting an image of the two towers in this article, but
you should have.
That would have been just for me. So Starship and the towers, they're going to essentially become symbiotic. They like when one Starship lands and the other tower is being worked on, and that one will go off, and so there'll be constant upgrades. They just want Starship to be flying as many times as it possibly can. And Musk actually said during the presentation that when Starship has reached orbit and it has passed all these developmental phases, and let's just say is fully operational, it will be launching multiple times a day from multiple locations around the world. Even to the point where the SpaceX CEO said that he expects Starship to be used for Earth-to-Earth transport. So he believes that whether it be the scale of the rocket it is now or a much more scaled down version, Starship will be used to get from one side of the planet to the other because, quote, the fastest way to get from one place to another on Earth or here to the other side of Earth is an intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM. But just make sure you delete the nuke and add the landing part. So he's basically saying
that sounds pretty
rocket
too.
Rocket travel is the fastest way to travel on Earth at the moment. And Starship.
What do you reckon, like transporting people with rockets?
That's what he thinks. He said, where was it? Musk goes on to say that in the future when Starship can reach orbit, it will fly a lot, reaching several times a day from multiple locations around the world. And there's a pretty good chance Starship will do Earth-to-Earth transport as well. That is a lot like down the track. But it does make sense because if you can get a rocket out into orbit and Earth is rotating this way, right? Then essentially you just get the rocket out and then bring it back down to Earth, and you've dodged all of the time spent. Like it will be a lot quicker. You could probably get to the UK in maybe half or even quarter of the amount of time, just to the other planet, just by taking advantage of the planet's rotation and obviously the incredible speed of the rocket.
But at the same time, like for us, like as we're in Australia, like it takes us 10 hours just to get out of Australia, basically, on a plane.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like just to get anywhere in the world is like 10-hour flight. So when we hear anything about like being able to go around the Earth faster, it's just like our eyes light up.
We're like, really?
We're like, what?
Really?
Like, I mean, imagine being able, like if you're in Europe, you go from like London to France in like an hour, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Australia, you want to get to London, it's 30 hours. Whatever the case is.
Something tragic.
It's like insane, right? So like if we could get like anywhere from Melbourne or Adelaide and just get to like another country in like 3 hours.
Oh man.
Imagine that, right? That
would be awesome. Imagine landing in Starbase, just like getting out of the Starship, like, and all of the
smoke.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be awesome. Just another Musk story here. I've been keeping my eye on the Tesla bot. Officially,
always keep your eye on them.
Yeah,
take over one day.
Probably. Is officially named Optimus. This video is Reese. You can play it on the screen somewhere here. It's a video.
Exciting, but it's kind of fun to watch.
It's it's not like, oh my God, they're coming for our jobs right now. But it is impressive, the dexterity, especially in the hands. So this is, I'm guessing here, Optimus Gen 2. Gen 1 kind of looked like a pile of garbage. It didn't really move too well. People were more so laughing at it, especially compared to the, again, optimistic predictions by Musk. Yeah. But now we're starting to see through Optimus Gen 2 much more delicate hand movements. It walks 30% faster compared to its previous generation. Its weight has been reduced by 10 kilos.
And this video shows it folding a shirt, right? So that's like
yes.
what the unexciting thing is. So it's like Elon like just posted to X, like Optimus folds a shirt. And like, I mean, you know, a robot folding a shirt is actually kind of impressive because it requires like that fine hand movement. And it's not the fact that it, like you could get like a shirt folding machine, right? Like if you go to like a dry cleaners or something like that, you got like these pressing machines. This is not what that is. This is about showcasing the hand movement. So like the whole point of the video is to say, hey, that looks like a humanoid like folding a shirt as opposed to a machine that folds shirts, you know?
Yep. No, that is exactly what they're trying to demonstrate here. Back in early December is when they announced the Gen 2 version. And I think they said, improvements in balance and body control, delicate object manipulation, tactile sensing on fingertips, and just an overall more human physical design, the hands. And then Musk said on December 13th on X, so much engineering has gone into the hands. In a year, it will be able to thread a needle. Again, Musk caveat, timeline, you know what to do. But if it does thread a needle in a year, that will be very impressive. The dexterity and engineering for the robot to continuously be able to thread a needle on various sizes, various thread width, all of that kind of stuff. That is so impressive. Yeah, so that's just a little update on, I should say, Musk did say on X under the t-shirt folding video, important note, Optimus cannot yet do this autonomously, but certainly will be able to do this fully autonomously in an arbitrary environment. Obviously, that would be in the future. And then he writes, won't require a fixed table with box that only has one shirt. So essentially what he's saying that you'll be able to do, Optimus will be capable of doing this in any environment with any shirt and any box in the future. Again,
I think
timeline.
AI will play a major role in like pushing robotic stuff, like improving it exponentially in the coming years.
Yeah, in both the human to robot communication, for sure, I can see language models being the bridge that is necessary for us to be able to communicate with a humanoid robot, or even a robot like some of the weird ones that LG and Samsung announced at CES, like it's like a robot guard dog or something like that. Maybe if we have enough time, I can mention that at the end. Or I might have done it last week. I can't remember. There's so many CES stories, but essentially this dog would acts as
the
a
LG one, isn't it?
Yeah. Did we talk about that?
I don't know if we did, but like let's just talk about it briefly. So like because I think I saw it as well. So it's basically like, you know, the Abo, the Sony dog. Remember that? Like that was like 10, 15 years ago. That was more of like it was like the impressive thing about that was that it was robotics, and it was like it mimicked like a pet, but it was like programmed to do X, and that's all it could do. Whereas this cute little, looks like a robot pet from LG has AI, so it can act as like a security.
Robot butler.
Can detect changes in your behavior and mood, and then with that, you know, potentially like they always, whenever they explain this sort of stuff, it's always like in a nice calm way. So it's like, hey, the robot will see your behavior, and if it detects that you're sad, it will make the lighting more nice and in the room, and it will play some of your favorite music to soothe you. You know, it's like some nice calm.
How
music.
weird is that?
It's like, but isn't like the scary part there is that the robot is watching you and detecting your mood and recording your various behavior changes
all the time.
Like, is it like the fact that it's going to play a nice calming song when you come home and if you're stressed or whatever, and it tells, or when you're stressed out or whatever the case is, it's like, yeah, okay. But like, you got this cute little robot that's like,
yeah, it'll greet you at the door, and then it will look at your face like, "Whoa," and it's like, "Oh,
eyes."
Yeah, of course it does.
Like something from like a Pixar cartoon.
Yeah, it's intentionally designed to look harmless. That's for sure. As Samsung has its own version, I'm guessing is similar.
They have like their ball thing.
It's called Ballie. It's the personal assistant robot. It looks. I prefer this design much more than.
I like the Samsung one because it's like a Star Wars robot, right?
Yeah,
it
reminds me.
It's like Ballie.
Yeah,
like, it's got like the R2D2 and like the other robots.
It looks friendlier.
The other one is like hiding a secret.
This one, Samsung did not bring Ballie on stage, but offered a proof of concept trailer. You can see Ballie remotely warning its owner that their dog is up to no good before refilling the dog food bowl and using its projector to snitch. Using its projector to distract the dog, seemingly following orders and communicating through a text message-like app. Ballie will also be able to interact with Samsung smart home devices, like lights and other smart powered devices, and take calls. So all of this is obviously powered by AI, as every single product at CES 2024 was. And yeah,
it's cool products, but
it's cool.
I mean, I wouldn't like. I mean,
no price or release date, Kosta. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. No, that's my favorite, and this is just I suppose a little bit of a joke towards all companies that participate in all of these conventions. My favorite announcements are announcements that they're going to announce something.
Oh, yeah.
They're the best, dude. They're like, hey, we're going to say something soon. Yeah, you excited?
The case.
You excited? Cool.
The announcement for the announcement.
The announcement for the announcement's wild. It's like, dude, stop trying to squeeze the amount of press you can get out of this. That's all it is. That's all it is. There's no other reason to make an announcement about an announcement that's going to happen. You want the marketing for it. Just announce it, dude. Just announce it. So that's a couple of fun stories there. What else do we have on the menu?
I think a few like fun ones. Keeping it on AI, switching back to gaming. So this is potentially going to be controversy because there's always there's already a few people upset. So like, like AI in art, right? So like AI generated art, companies that have been using it are getting a lot of backlash, right? When it's pointed out, and then they release a statement saying, hey, we didn't know this was AI art or something, or like, hey, but then, companies like Ubisoft and Square Enix are saying they're going to use AI art to complement human art. So it's like, it's a very gray area at the moment because it potentially is going to get rid of existing jobs for products for an end result that's not going to be, it's going to lack the artistic or human touch or whatever you want to call it, right? So as of up until now, Valve and Steam, which is the most popular PC gaming platform. If you're playing PC games, you're playing on Steam 9 times out of 10, right? Unless
absolutely.
It's locked out of Steam for some reason.
Unless you've been cheating.
Unless you're cheating on Valve. So they've been rejecting games that where developers have been using AI to generate content, and content can be anything, right? Content can be art in the game, could be levels, could be NPC dialogue, could be whatever the case is, right? So they've been rejecting it because it's a great area in terms of like what are these AI models trained on, and this is an ongoing thing that's not going to change anytime soon. You got New York Times suing OpenAI for $1 billion or whatever the case is.
That's not going to go through, but right? Go on.
But but whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But the reason why Valve has been blocking AI content isn't because up until now isn't because they're taking a moral stance on AI. It's because it's unknown at this point. So basically now they've come out to say we're going to allow AI content on Steam. And the post is called AI content on Steam. And so they've spent time talking with developers, learning about AI in game development, and they plan to release the vast majority of games that use AI, which is probably going to be a ton of games. And Steam already has like thousands of games released daily. It's like an insane amount. But anyway, so they're basically creating like a new rules for AI and developers using AI for games, but also for players as well. So if you're a gamer, if a game is using AI on the Steam store page, it will say developers need to disclose that how the game uses AI. It'll maybe it'll say this game uses X AI to generate player avatars or something like that, and that might be the only thing it does, or whatever the case is.
What is live generated AI content?
So this is where it gets tricky, right? So live generated AI is AI being generated on the fly. So let's say you're playing an online game, and you're speaking to like an NPC. So the most common example would be what NVIDIA showed with their thing, where you're talking to a character and it's creating the response dynamically for you. So it's not going to be the same for me, and that's the whole point of like a true AI NPC. So that's what it's covering, is that if there is like an AI character in a game that you can talk to, like what you say is not what everybody else is going to say. It's called, because it's generating the response live, and for you and for your game world, for your instance, that's live generated AI content. So it's AI content in terms of like music, art, whatever the case is, but also live generated on the fly content. So basically, developers will also have to let Valve know exactly how they're using AI, how the models have been trained, so they want to cover themselves, and they're going to have to, part of the agreement with Valve to release the games to say that we take full responsibility, that everything is above board, and we haven't been scraping every Bethesda game or every CD Projekt Red game and then train the AI to create great dialogue or whatever the case is, whatever.
This is going to be a can of worms.
Yeah, exactly. So Valve closes with, today's changes are the result of us improving our understanding of the landscape and risks in this space, as well as talking to game developers using AI and building AI tools. This will allow us to be much more open to releasing games using AI technology in Steam. So basically, they're opening the floodgates for AI stuff. The only exception is adult-only sexual content created with live-generated AI.
God damn it!
No. So there's not going to be any sort of like AI porn games on
damn!
Steam. No, that's like the only exception. It's like weird. They just throw it in at the end there. It's like, but...
Well, I'm not just going to stop using porn. Steam. Why else do I use Steam then?
To play all your little anime porn games.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think... I can't say that. There will be certainly a large percentage of people that will genuinely upset about that.
Oh, but yeah, for sure.
I would say 90% of gamers were like, okay. All right, cool. I do like this. Valve is in a bit of a particular spot, and I suppose any client that hosts games, like, I would like to know how Microsoft feels about this, because they're going to be put in the same kind of boat. Valve has essentially said, you can have AI games on our platform, but if you're caught using any assets that are stolen, it's on you, not on us.
That's right, yeah. But also, you have to disclose, and then obviously, and if that's exposed as that's the case, then Valve can just remove it.
Straight away.
And wash their hands of it, say like, well, it's been brought to our attention, so we've acted accordingly, because the developer has the agreement explicitly states X, X, and X. Because there was nothing, because they didn't have any of, because this is brand new, right? This is new territory for game development.
Yeah.
And, the reason, so it basically means that, up until now, Valve has just been rejecting anything with generative AI because they didn't know how to handle it, really.
Yeah, it's a fair enough move.
And this is us saying, this is Valve saying, this is how we're going to handle it.
Because I want AI to be used in the construction of my games.
I think it can be an additive tool, and I think that's
good. So sensitive. The way that I think about it is, if you're going to, I don't know, generate a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer landscape. Like, you don't want Fred, Steve, and George all sitting there for 16 hours drawing up this landscape.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, just program that into. Their skills are better utilized somewhere else. That's how I think about it.
Exactly, and that sort of stuff is being used in games forever, like for a while now.
Yeah,
like procedural
Unreal Engine
is what they called it, right? Like or like Minecraft, like every time you load the map, it procedurally generates a new map, right?
Yeah.
And like AI-powered procedural generation is like, well, that's like the next evolution of that. So why not?
Yeah, better procedural generation.
But like, let's say you've got like Baldur's Gate 4, and like this is never going to happen. But because Larian Studios seems to be, quite focused on quality and art and things like that. But let's say they say that like, the next version of the game, like now they have to disclose it. So like all music has been created by AI, right? It's been generated by AI because they like, we can save $300,000 by not hiring
all those artists,
composers and musicians and whatever it is. We've saved $1 million, whatever it is, paying all these to create like 10 hours of music. So now we've used AI. It sounds a little bit generic, but hey, who cares? Then you could be like, well, that seems like morally wrong because like you not only is it inferior, but you're withholding employment from people that make a living through creating art in a certain way.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate on this because I do agree with you. How is that different from procedural generation? Shouldn't the studio then just hire 500 more developers?
Because
time?
Things like music and art exist outside of commerce, right? Art is art, and it exists outside of games as well. So, like, if you think about like music and like image, like let's say, or like character design, this is stuff that where human expression has led to like amazing things. So like
you could argue landscapes in game is art. Yeah, it's not typical art, but like I believe gaming as a whole is like when you make a game, it's a beautiful artistic piece.
But it's a tool, yeah. Like or like Speed Tree, something that generates a tree, right? Like so somebody doesn't have to sit there and model a tree. Like that makes sense. But I guess you're right. Like, because like, what's the difference at the end of the day? But I think there is the whole point of like
the line's different for everybody.
AI, is that like there is no line. There's no like this. Like, this is the law, sort of, so to speak. It's like, and the only like recourse there is at the moment is that if AI is being trained on artwork created by artists or like this and this, then those people need to be compensated if that's going to be used commercially.
Yeah, I agree.
And that needs to be disclosed. And with their permission as well.
Yeah, 100%. It will become very, very difficult to proportionately deal out. Like, let's just say a game is found to have assets from artists from 40 different games. And then those... So I suppose you'd have to divide it 40 different ways, but I was thinking of it more so in terms of like a pure image generation AI tech. So it's like if that image has 1 million different pieces of artwork in it from 1 million different people, and each of those people are a different percentage of that artwork, then you deal out 3% to this one, 0.005 to this one, or not. Like how is that actually done? So that's why I suppose they have to disclose where they got that data from. So if they are found to be caught, those people can be fairly compensated.
Yeah. Now this is one example that I think, I'm not too sure how I feel, that where I'm kind of like maybe that's okay. It's like, let's say you've got like an RPG, right? And you've got a team of artists that have drawn like fantastical characters, high fantasy, sci-fi, whatever it is. Like main characters, they've like spent ages designing them, drawing them, modeling them. There's modelers, there's artists, concept art and things like that, right? And you've got like 100 of these, but then because you've got like this huge, it's like a huge world, right? So then you've got, let's say you want to have like 50,000 like other characters that are just background, right? So then instead of because it's not going to be feasible. It's actually not feasible to get your team of artists to spend, like, you don't have like a year for them to just
to
churn
actually
out.
do that. Yeah.
But why don't we train an AI model on all the art that they've created for the game so far to then just create like the NPC characters, the background characters. So then they're in the same style and it fits in that mold. Like, is that crossing the line?
I don't know. I see. So that makes perfect sense. Of course you'd want to do that because...
Yeah, because then you're doing
because you just want to save the time for it. But yeah.
It's not feasible any other way because you can't create like 50,000 unique characters.
This is going to get dicey.
Bespoke in that style. You know, this is like, there's so many, like there's hundreds of those examples. And Valve opening the door to it is going to accelerate the discussion.
For sure. That is for sure. Is that about all you had on that one?
Yeah.
And we've got to keep our eye on that because I'm sure there's going to be stories popping up of indie developers stealing assets from multiple, like Unreal assets, Unity, all of it. Like they're going to be pinched for whatever.
Yeah,
like they can even
police this stuff.
Yeah, right? how? Who's gonna?
And the thing is,
we'll keep our eye on it.
OpenAI basically said there's no way to train these generative AI models to be as good as they are without copyright infringement. Yeah, they basically said that, like one or the other. Like they said, like there's no way to do this without scraping the entire internet, right? There's no way to do this without scraping all art or
which is user data.
Yeah,
all data contained within these large language models. The general ones, the ones that you know about, have scraped data from everybody. Like whether that be Facebook's data, which contains most people that are online, Messenger, Wikipedia, like it's everyone's data. That's how they're so good. That's why they're impressive. So with that, you surrender. I mean, well, they didn't really ask. So I suppose they just took it away from you.
Lawsuits.
Yeah. This is going to get dicey, and especially with it coming into gaming, developers will be very, very like the big dogs, the AAA title developers.
Tread carefully.
Yeah. Well, or they have to put some kind of like code inside of their assets. So like if they are copied in some way, maybe it shows like a watermark. It's like Unreal Engine just across every asset that's used by the AI to make it. That would be really funny. Do you want to finish off today's episode with YouTube coming after people with ad blockers?
Yeah, let's do it. Final story of the day.
Final story. If you have noticed that your YouTube is slowing down, this is probably why. So, YouTube... This is wild. This is crazy. YouTube has, since ad blockers ever came into existence, has been cracking down on them because it goes directly against their business model. I still use ad blockers.
Here's the thing though, right? Like, and I've been using for a while, is that the way that they've been combating ad blockers is to show more ads to people that don't have ad blockers.
That is one of the ways.
Driving more people to ad blockers. So it's like a catch-22. It's like a vicious cycle. But this new tactic is
different.
It's like full-on guerrilla warfare.
This is different. So, a new report from 9 to 5 Google quoted a video posted to Reddit, which showed a user clicking on a video, playing it in normal speed with the ad blocker off, and then he turned the video on, and then it got to a certain point in the video and then started to lag. And he did this a few times within the video. So then 9 to 5 Google stated the following: an official timeout written within YouTube's code to act as a laggy internet connection this isn't something that's new. This was in the code, a known piece of the code for some time. It appears it's being used to a much wider effect at the moment. So this isn't the first time that YouTube has targeted ad blocking software. in November last year, the company annoyed millions of people, including my little brother, which was very funny. Whoever was using ad blockers, it disabled video watching for that account. Yeah. And I was watching YouTube. This is before I moved out. I was watching YouTube in the next room. And Sam, my little brother, was like, why can't I get into YouTube? His account, and this was a tiny audience that YouTube did this to because they wanted to test how this worked. He was one of them. He was so upset. He was so upset.
I remember there was an example, I think for either for this one or the previous one, where it was YouTube Premium, which gets rid of ads because you're paying a premium. Like these users were also like, there was some of the YouTube Premium users that were being susceptible to the code because it was being detected as like kind of like a version of ad blocking because you're not getting ads because you're premium.
Wow.
So paid subscribers were getting like this laggy stuff as well.
Oh my God. Yeah, wow. So if you have noticed some slow load times with your YouTube videos, this is probably why.
Yeah, disable ad blocker and see if it goes faster.
Yeah, disable ad blocker, suffer through the ad, and disable ad blocker. Sorry, reload your browser, or your page, and that should fix it. So this is just something from the YouTube communications manager, Christopher Lawton, just to explain YouTube's stance on ad blockers. Ad blockers simply violate the platform's terms of service. Quote, ads support a device ecosystem of creators globally and allow billions to access their favorite content on YouTube. And end quote.
Which is fair enough.
That's exactly fair enough. So I can see both sides of this coin. I don't like seeing the ads. I'm going to use ad blocker. My videos seem fine. But if they do start slowing down, I will get rid of it. And I'll probably end up picking up YouTube Premium at some stage because this battle will not end. YouTube.
Dude, like, have you tried using YouTube on a TV without ad blocking? Like, no. So basically, like the way that YouTube works is that, like, if you're on a PC, obviously you can just close your browser or tab to something else, right? Like, you can just immediately move on to the next thing. So their ads are kept to a very clinical level. But if you're watching YouTube on a TV, and then if it's a long video, they give you, it's like watching like old school TV, man. There's like commercial breaks every 10 minutes with like 2 or 3 ads. Because like they know that what choice do you have? Like, okay, you're gonna stop this and fire up Netflix. Like you're in, like it's full screen. You're watching YouTube. Yeah. This is what you're doing. You're watching this long video. So they feed you more ads on the TV app version.
Didn't even consider that. They do as well, because whenever I Chromecast something, there is more ads.
More ads, yeah.
Those,
lots of ads.
My feathers are getting ruffled
to
again.
Get the premium because they're like, well, if you want it, no ads free. If you want ad free, and then
I'll
you get
probably
that
end up getting
more on TV as well. Like to say, like if you want to go ad free.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to. I mean, YouTube is just like, considering like the amount, like this video and like just billions of videos and their server costs and like the revenue, like it's.
I'm not that upset about the ads, to be honest. It's not that bad, but
I understand, man. They got.
I get it. That's about all we had for this week. Maybe if we find some more leftover CES stuff, we'll touch on next week. Did you have anything to?
We'll have the 4070 Ti Super.
Oh,
see how the next one shapes up.
Yep. That is going to be. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Did you have anything else to round off this brilliant episode?
No. Check out the reviews, like, subscribe, comment, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep. All the stories that we talked about in today's episode are linked down below if you want some further reading. Thank you very much for listening. Please do everything Kosta just said, like, comment, subscribe, share it. Look out for the clips on TikTok and YouTube as well for the short tidbits on each of the stories. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye.